This year marks the 40th anniversary of some iconic horror movies released in 1985. 4 decades later, these films remain just as worth watching, and now is the perfect time to revisit them. This isn't a ranking, just a look back at 8 horror films that made 1985 a year to remember. And of course, there's always room for your suggestions in the comments. Day of the Dead is the 3rd film in Romero's original zombie trilogy and his darkest take on the apocalypse. The dead now outnumber the living by hundreds of thousands to one, and a group of scientists and soldiers hide in a military bunker trying to study the undead while tensions boil around them. For the first time in the series, zombies are examined in a scientific way, revealing that some can remember pieces of their past and even learn. But growing fear and power struggles inside the bunker lead to a violent collapse, unleashing some of the most brutal zombie carnage ever filmed. When it first came out, the film's ultra-bleak tone put off many critics, but over time, horror fans have come to see it as a masterpiece on par with Romero's earlier work. It's the goriest entry in the trilogy, and is often called Romero's personal favorite. And really, who can argue with him? Re-Animator is Stuart Gordon's fast-paced, funny, and over-the-top adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft. It's a quintessential 1980s B-movie with lasting trash appeal and much to admire. The film updates the mad scientist trope into an iconic anti-hero played by Jeffrey Combs, who many horror fans first discovered here. He plays a brilliant but arrogant medical student who creates a serum that reanimates the recently deceased, but the results are far from perfect. The revived return as screaming, superpowered, homicidal zombies. The film mixes social criticism with splatter and gothic sensibilities, finding a tone that is equal parts disturbing and comical. With a twisted sense of humor and one of horror's best lead performances, Re-Animator is always a joy to revisit and is considered Gordon's finest film. It was the first in a series of Re-Animator films, each carrying the same trashy yet irresistible allure. Yes, 1985 belonged to zombie movies, and Return of the Living Dead, directed by Dan O'Bannon, is one of the most entertaining you'll find. It blends crass humor, gross-out horror, and likable anti-heroes to deliver an edgy and satisfying experience. It was also the first to show the undead as brain-eaters, a now classic element in the genre. A punk rock aesthetic gives it a unique energy, while the soundtrack adds to its subversive and sardonic tone. Return of the Living Dead later spawned 4 sequels that couldn't match the original, but that shouldn't stop anyone from watching this classic. Phenomena, directed by Dario Argento, came out in 1985, but feels like a film from the previous decade. Argento, known for Suspiria and Profondo Rosso, brings a similar eerie style here. The story follows a young girl at a remote boarding school who discovers she has psychic powers that allow her to communicate with insects. Soon, she begins using this strange gift to track down a serial killer. Like many Italian giallo horror films, Phenomena features some uneven acting, but that's not what makes it stand out. The real star is Argento's ability to create chilling moods and beautiful, detailed shots that pull viewers into his world. Although critics weren't kind to it at the time, the film has withstood the test of time and has become a cult classic of 80s horror. A young woman in Berlin gets 2 movie tickets from a stranger and heads to the theater with her friend. As they watch a horror movie, the events on screen start to mirror real life, and one of the audience members suddenly turns into a demon. The infection spreads fast, trapping everyone inside the cinema as more people turn into monsters. Directed by Lamberto Bava, son of Mario Bava, Demons takes a simple story and turns it into a visual feast with a pounding soundtrack and an eerie color palette. There's no deep plot or character development here, but that's part of the fun. The film delivers wild moments, like a helicopter crashing through the theater ceiling and a motorbike chase down the aisles, with heroes using a machete to fight off demons while riding past. The dubbing is rough, but it only adds to the charm of this chaotic ride. Lifeforce is a film without comparison. Based on the novel The Space Vampires, it follows a space mission to Halley's Comet that goes wrong. A follow-up crew finds the original ship and an alien craft in the comet's tail, where they discover 3 unconscious, naked humans and bring them back to Earth. At this point, chaos begins and doesn't stop. The vampires here aren't blood-sucking creatures with fangs, but beings that absorb the life force of their victims in a stunning light show, leaving behind a husk of a corpse. Directed by Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame, Lifeforce features excellent practical effects. Everything is done by hand, including stop-motion lightning that still impresses. It was received poorly by critics and at the box office, adding to the downfall of the Cannon Group at the time. Despite this, Lifeforce is an astonishing B-movie ride, and it's still worth your time. 1985 didn't pass without a Stephen King adaptation, and Silver Bullet brought one of his lesser-known stories to the screen. Not the scariest lycanthrope movie there ever was, and certainly not on par with other 80s werewolf films like An American Werewolf in London or The Howling. Nonetheless, Silver Bullet is still worth checking out for its well-executed sequences and entertaining performances. In a small American town, a string of murders puts the community on edge. A young paraplegic boy named Marty discovers the truth behind the killings, facing a horror meant for adults. His perspective adds a fresh angle to the werewolf genre, contrasting with the usual honest man cursed to become a monster trope. The film's antagonist is an unexpected and empathetic figure, with a reveal that is well handled. Silver Bullet uses smart camera work and editing to build suspense and deliver effective jump scares, holding its place as a solid piece of 80s horror storytelling. Fright Night is one of the best vampire movies and is scary fun from start to finish. The story follows Charlie Brewster, a teen who loves horror movies and discovers that his new neighbor is a vampire. No one believes him, blaming his fear on his obsession with vampire films, so it's up to Charlie to stop his neighbor before more people die. Fright Night balances creepy moments with a sense of fun, capturing the spirit of classic B-movie horror. It was ahead of its time as a horror parody, using self-referential humor in a way that would become popular years later with movies like Scream. The effects work is fantastic, and Tom Holland impresses with his directorial debut, showing a clear love for the genre that he would later bring to child's play.